Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 3-Star Rift Clears. Today we will be continuing through our quest to clear out the Sigma style rifts, and the rifts that we will be focusing on in today's episode are the ones that you currently see outlined on your screen with the arrows. So before we get started, a real quick shout out as we have officially reached 70 subscribers, which is amazing to me. So to make sure that you never miss out on an upcoming video, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, as the subscription is free and easy. And without further ado, let's jump into the rifts. The first rift that we'll be looking at today is a level 36 rush style rift, where we need to beat down 40 enemies or more in Shadowland. Now, this is a pretty straightforward rift. You'll probably need to rinse and repeat it a couple of times to meet the full 3-star clear condition. The first star, very easy. You just got to get through it with knocking out those 40 characters, which is pretty simple because friend and foe alike will deal increased damage over time. So as long as you've got a team at that minimum threshold, you're not going to have any problems meeting this criteria. The second star is, again, pretty simple. You've got to get through the fight with losing one or fewer teammates, especially if you have the mastery where you can regain some of your health upon using an extreme attack. Then you really don't have to worry about any of your teammates getting knocked down. Additionally, it makes the last item here a lot easier to obtain if you can get through the rift with all of your characters still alive, because that just maximizes your damage output that you can crank out. Now, that third star that you're going to have to grind for probably a little bit more is defeating 70 enemies. I got 69 enemies on my first try with this, and I had to rinse and repeat it 6 or 7 times to fully get the rest of them. But it is doable, so I'm going to show you that run right now. So this takes place in the entrance to the Temple of the Shadow of the Hand, the same area where you first interact with Iron Fist. Now, one of the quirks to this fight is, in addition to some of the hand soldiers, you will have other enemies that show up. One of the enemies that you need to take particular caution about is Mystique, as she pops up and is a little bit more of a nuisance to take down, but you can certainly do so with some well-timed attacks. Another enemy that pops up that you want to keep in mind is the Sentinels, and the Sentinels actually really kind of help with meeting this criteria, especially early on. Now, you didn't see me employ that strategy here, but as any other sentry, if you knock them out, they will drop their core, and the core will immediately deplete any stagger bar of any enemy that you throw it into, as well as dealing some nice additional damage on top of that as well. So with here, I've left the rest of my team to focus mainly on the grunts, and my strategy to take out the rest of Mystique was using Wolverine's Adamantium Uppercut there, as it is a very high power attack. As soon as you get your extreme attacks online, you do want to kind of let them rip as soon as you can. I held on to it a little bit to assure that we had enough enemies cropping up to actually benefit from using that attack. But we are about at the midway point, and we've got about 30 of the enemies taken down. Yeah, that's 40 extra enemies that we still need to take on, but at the same time, we will have increased damage on this second half of the fight, and the damage continues to increase as the fight progresses as well. So I'm really dialing in on these mighty enemies with Wolverine, because he, at this point, can bust through their entire stagger bar using his Adamantium Uppercut, and then with your falling aerial you do some increased damage that allows you to recover a solid chunk of the EP that you've used on those attacks. We're into a minute left, and this is getting a little bit more strenuous, if you will, but again, we are now at a point where we can really start laying into the enemies that are showing up. Now with Wolverine, I am a bit concerned because I am getting a little low, but as you saw, I dashed over to that full health replacement, and that was able to get us the full revive. Now I got smacked in the face by Venom there, but he actually knocked me right into another full health revive, which is exactly what we needed to see. And with a couple more Adamantium Uppercuts here, we have Venom completely burned down as well. There's about 20 seconds on the clock. We're a little over 20 opponents that we still need to take down. But with the use of all of our extreme attacks there, we get to that last 10 or so that we need to take on. So at this point, I'm really focusing and dialing in on as many of the team synergy attacks as I can, and with one final use of the Electro Web and the Venom Strike, we just hit that 70 threshold in the nick of time, which nets us the 3-star clear for this rift. Rift number 2 of today's video is the level 37 boost rift, where the objective is to take down Klaw. Now, similar to the previous rift, both sides of the fight will be dealing increased damage, so we will receive increased damage from Klaw, but we will also be dealing increased damage to him as well. To get this cleared out in the 3-star criteria, you first, of course, need to just get through the fight. Secondly, if you want to get that 2nd star, you have to finish the rift in 1 minute and 10 seconds or less. The nature of this rift does make that pretty easy. Klaw doesn't really have crazy second phases, and he's not infused with any infinity stones. There's no other grunts you need to worry about. So you've just got to take in a very strong, heavy-hitting team and laser him down as quickly as possible. The 3rd criteria, as long as you are playing carefully and cautiously, you should be able to get around with getting 2 or fewer teammate incapacitations. Klaw has a very annoying tactic where he has a very large area of effect with all of his attacks, which you'll see here in just a moment as we get into the actual fight. So you'll probably end up losing 1 or 2 characters, but as long as you can keep it to that or less, you're going to be fine, as this is not a deathless or a damageless run as we've seen previously with some of our other rifts. So Klaw starts off in a decent area for us to rush down on, and he does teleport around the stage a little bit, which is a bit of a nuisance. But my main strategy here is to use Wolverine's Adamantium Uppercut, as it deals hefty amounts of damage to both the stagger and the opponent's health. At this point, you see we've got him down to about half health, but he has now released a bunch of his concussive sound blasts across the stadium here, and he bounces around in this little sound wave, and you saw that he ended up taking down Wolverine, which was a bit unfortunate, but I can resort to using the Venom Strike from Miles to help burn down on him, and Miles' passive web sling ability does allow us to negate a lot of the bounce around damage that you would see from Klaw. He bounces around very quickly though, so you can't always anticipate it as nicely as you necessarily want to. So at this point, we've got just that last hit to take on, and even though Miles was our 2nd character to go down, that nets us the 3-star clear for this rift. Rift number 3 of today's video is the level 38 Synergy Trial, where our goal is to defeat the A.I.M soldiers. Now this is identical to some of the starting paths that you see when you first land in Wakanda and make your way through that in the main story quest. Additionally, you will be dealing additional damage with any synergy attack that's used. And there's 2 really big things that you've got to focus on here. I'll be showing you the first run, mainly because it allows us to focus on the 10 powerful enemies. Those are the ones, any enemy that has a stagger bar classifies as being a powerful enemy. And that's the run that I particularly focused on. But I will also outline what you'll need to do in order to get that 2 minute and 30 second clear, as it's not as contingent on defeating enemies as you might think. So right off the bat here, we start off in an area where there are no enemies, nothing to be found, so you just want to rush in to the fight as quickly as you can. You'll eventually get into this area where the fight kind of opens up and you can see the wreckage from the plane that Winter Soldier used to crash in here. And that right there is one of the mighty enemies that you'll want to focus on. So any of these red units are really the ones that you're going to want to focus down. Now, the difficulty with this is you need to focus on using as much of your synergy attacks as you can, or you're not going to burst these guys down at all. Standard abilities on their own is not going to cut it. So you want to get 2 of your teammates as close to any of these enemies as you can, as that will allow you to efficiently focus down the enemies that are needed. Now, in order to get your 2 minute and 30 second clear, the main things that you need to focus on are clearing out these little barriers that allow you to clear your path and progress into the next section. With this one, you've got to hit that little terminal there next to the generator, and then you will be able to go up on level ground next to that terminal. And at this point, I'm really just trying to focus on getting as many mighty enemies as I can that have shown up. But with all the mighty enemies taken out, at this point we are using as many synergies as we can on this little power cell so we can unlock this gate and get through to the next section. Now in this next section, we have a couple of these automated turrets that have shown up. And that's not exactly great news, because typically in the main story quest you can use these little rockets that are around to throw at them and take them out. But if you remember the quirk to this fight, every other damage type deals less damage unless it's a synergy. So you're not going to make any headway in taking out this turret even with those rockets that are designed to take the turrets out. So at this point, I just get up as close as I can with a few of my characters, and we burn down that turret. You saw there was that one terminal that we were actually able to take out with those synergy attacks as well. And here, we are synergizing as best we can with Miles and Wolverine, but for whatever reason, it's not dealing the amount of damage as I was hoping that it would. Now, at this point, we're dealing more synergy damage now that Thanos has lent his laser attack there, and that gets down the last turret that we need to worry about. There is one more terminal that we need to take care of, which is down here on ground level, back behind here. Now, there are some A.I.M grunts that are still hanging out, and you're going to want to do what you can to take them out. If you can get them closer to this terminal, of course, you can deal increased amounts of damage with your synergy team. But I'm trying as best I can to get my teammates to help out with this, and they're just not synergizing the way that I would expect that they would. So it takes some coordination and some planning in order to get this burned down to the best of your ability and efficiently as well. We've just about got this terminal taken out though, which will unlock the final section that we need in order to progress. And with that terminal finally destroyed, we can move past this next section here. Now this next section is really sparse, and as a matter of fact, you don't even need to defeat the enemies that show up. Now, you could go around and defeat these turrets, but at the same time, you really don't need to, because it's not a main objective for clearing out this quest. Now, this is the last group of enemies that are going to crop up that you need to get around, and yes, you can spend some more time defeating them, especially if you're concerned about not having all of your mighty enemies defeated. And just like that, we've got all three of them taken down. As soon as you cross the lip onto this bridge, that will clear the trial, and you'll be able to advance further on. And in our case, that was enough for us to get the 3-star clear. Now, the fourth and final rift of today's video is this level 39 synergy trial where we need to defeat Mysterio. And this has an identical quirk to the last fight, where synergy attacks are going to deal increased damage, but everything else is going to do less. You do recover EP a little bit quicker as you're using those attacks, though, so that is a nice bonus. Now, in this fight, you first need to clear out the rift. That's going to be the criteria for every single rift that you ever take on, is you'll get a star if you finish it. The second criteria is you want to get through with one or fewer teammate incapacitations, which is simple enough because you're dealing damage consistently and quickly as well. And that last and third star is in a 2-minute and 10-second time frame or less, which is pretty easy to obtain, and there's a high likelihood that you'll be able to clear this out all in one fell swoop. Now, the criteria of this fight is almost identical to the way that you first see them introduced in the main story quest, where you first have to take on Miles Morales, Kamala Khan, and Spider-Gwen in a series of battles. Now, you do have to get them through their first section of the fight here, and it's a little unfortunate to me that I keep getting turned around by having Miles on my own team, as well as Miles as one of the characters that I'm meant to take down. But at this point, we have them into their second stage of the fight, which is really all you need to focus on, because as soon as you get them through this area with your synergy attacks, it takes them out of commission. And once you have all three of them defeated, you will be able to move on to the fight with Mysterio himself. Now, at this point, we've got Miles, so we're just focusing on using whatever synergy attacks we have at our disposal to knock him out. And once he is locked up and put away, we can continue on to take on Mysterio. Now, we reset back to the main entrance, but it does not replenish our EP attacks. So at this point, I'm going to focus mainly on using whatever synergy attacks I can with the available MP that I have on deck. Now, the thing that I really hate about the fight with Mysterio is this green particle gas, as most of your regular attacks that you could do or dole out are not going to work, and those are kind of necessary for regaining your MP. So as long as you have MP to work with, you can go ahead and use your synergy attacks against Mysterio. That little darker cloud that you see appearing there, it doesn't have a damaging effect, but it does have a slow effect to any members of your team. It's the green stuff that's nasty and you want to watch out for, as it staggers you and doesn't allow you to replenish your MP for those attacks. But at this point, we've got his stagger finished out, and one final adamantium uppercut from Wolverine is going to sort us out for this fight, which nets us the 3-star clear on the first attempt. So that does it for the rifts of today's video. We only have 4 rifts left, and these are the character-specific rifts. Those will be in our video next week, where we take on the solo trials of Wolverine, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, as well as showcasing the Loki fight and what's required to get a 3-star clear in that round of combat as well. So once again, if you're excited for that video and are enjoying this series, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. The subscription is free and easy, and I bring video uploads to you on a daily basis for your enjoyment and perusal. Thanks again for watching, and you have yourself a fantastic rest of your day.